Hello, my name is Robert Pechtel, and today I'm going to talk about the book of Revelation, which is the last book in the Bible. You can find it right at the end. I encourage you to read that book because it gives you a blessing if you read that book. So that's very valuable to you. And you might find that you don't understand a whole lot of it because, quite frankly, the text bounces around quite a bit, and you might not know where you're at. So I'm going to just focus on the time of tribulation, which is the period between when the God of the universe opens up the seals, the trumpets, and the bowls. That is defined as the time of the tribulation. The first three chapters of Revelation, of course, are about his church and what he sees in his church and how to be a better Christian. So those first three chapters, I encourage you to read those in their entirety to find out what Jesus says. And at that point, then it will become the time of the tribulation, where these seals on a document are opened, and those present a series of events that are in order. And then there's a series of trumpets that are blown and a series of bowls that are poured out. And these are all in an order that allows you then to have a better understanding of this time of the tribulation. So I have some basic assumptions here that I want to cover. The first is coming from Daniel, from the book of Daniel, where he talks about the 70 weeks that are determined for the state of Israel. And 69 of those weeks have already happened, and we've been in a interval now for 2,000 years, and we're coming up on the last week, which is a week of years, so 7 years. And in Daniel, it is pretty well explained that these years, the way that God counts them, are 360 days each. So we can look forward to 84 months of 30 days each, or 2,520 days to be the length of time that this tribulation is going to happen. So you can count the days once it starts. This tribulation is a time for God to test his peoples. This is coming from Revelation 3:10. God is going to test both his Christian peoples and his Jewish peoples. And for people that don't believe in him, the biggest tests of all are going to happen to them. And we're going to see that happening in these seals, trumpets, and bowls. For any historian, there have been two Jewish temples that were built in the same spot in Jerusalem on the Temple Mount, which is a known piece of property in Jerusalem. The second temple, of course, was torn down by the Romans in 70 A.D. when they kicked the Jews out of Jerusalem, actually out of the entire Holy Land. At some point, a third Jewish temple needs to be operating with daily sacrifices, and Jesus tells us that himself in Matthew chapter 24, verse 15. So I believe that the third Jewish temple is actually going to be built and operating before the tribulation happens. So we'll see how that can work. My favorite assumption here is that the rapture happened last night. Now, the rapture is something that is theorized. It's told in the Bible in many different ways. But in my mind, we have to be humble and say that the rapture happened last night, because we don't know when it's going to happen, and we have to be looking out for it to find it after it has happened. Okay? And I think that shortly after the rapture, the tribulation will start. And that is because God's righteousness demands this. He's waiting for the last Christian to become an elect. And at that point, he will turn on the rapture to carry up the elect Christians. And for this reason, I also think that only a small fraction of Christians who are living today are actually going to be raptured. And I would put that at less than 1% of all living Christians are going to be able to sit out this tribulation, from heaven. Let's talk a little bit more about the rapture happened last night. This is kind of like everybody wakes up and finds out the rapture happened. And I believe that this is because it can happen at any time. God doesn't have a timetable for this except what is known to him. And we are getting closer and closer to it. All of the precursors that the prophets and Jesus have said that were going to be occurring have all been documented to being, yes, we're doing them in our current age here in the 2020s. The only thing that really is not available right now is the third Jewish temple, and it has not been built up. There's a thing in the Muslim world called the Dome of the Rock, which is right over the spot that the temple needs to be. So that is the last thing I think that needs to be cleared in order for the rapture to happen. So if the rapture happened last night, why am I still here? If I'm a good Christian, how did I miss the rapture? We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But first, we need to know if the rapture has really happened. And if it happened last night, what would we be looking for? And three things you can look for are, you're going to hear about some great new world leader. This new world leader is going to take over the world in an incredibly fast fashion, and he's going to create world peace. There will not be any wars going on right after this great new world leader takes charge. The world will be at peace. And so that is a huge sign that the rapture happened. This next event here, flying saucers land. This might be you might consider this a laughable thing. However, Satan needs to have an excuse, a lie, for what is going to happen to the earth that he knows during the tribulation. The earth is going to be moved. Things are going to be falling out of the sky. He needs a lie that doesn't involve the God of the universe. And so he will be using flying saucers as that excuse. And you will only need to know this if they land. If they just stay up in the air like they've always been, you're not gonna see the rapture just yet. But when they land, then you know that the rapture really did happen. And the third thing that you can look for with great certainty is that you're going to see two witnesses, Jewish witnesses, show up in Jerusalem. And they're going to be on the Temple Mount prophesying and showing what is going to be happening to the world. Those two witnesses are going to have very good credentials, and nobody's going to be able to make them get off the Temple Mount. So let's go back again and just talk a little bit about why so few Christians are going to be raptured. I think it's less than 1%. And I believe it's because Christians can believe in or love Jesus, but they don't do anything about it. And Jesus wants all Christians to do Christianity. That is a very big thing for him. He is emphatic about that for people who believe in him to go and speak with other people who are non-Christians and tell them the faith. And this creates a fruit for God. If a Christian can talk to a non-Christian and have that person become a Christian, that is one more person in the kingdom of God. Another person who will not go to hell when this all ends. So this is something that Jesus has told specifically all of his people to do. And so anyone who believes in or loves Jesus really is obligated to talk to non-Christians. But how many Christians do that? Very, very few. As a matter of fact, most Christian families cannot get even their own children to be Christian. So this is a huge mark against being Christian, is that they have trouble getting even their own children to believe. And so as a result of this, I see Christians who have not done anything with their Christianity will not be taken up by God in that rapture, and those Christians will actually go through the tribulation on earth. So that's it's a tough statement to make, but that's, I think, what is going to happen. So let's talk about this third temple, because there is the Dome of the Rock in the way of the third temple, which is exactly where the second and the first temples were built. You're going to have to see something happen in history that we have not seen yet. Okay? And it could be anything like this here in this slide. You might see a Jewish leader send bulldozers up to the Temple Mount, and they could just push the Dome of the Rock over the Western Wall. That is an easy way to eliminate the issue. You could see Muslim rockets falling on the Dome of the Rock. Muslim rockets are being fired at Israel and at Jerusalem, and specifically, all the time. Hundreds and thousands of these rockets. So if only a few of them fall on the Dome of the Rock, they could destroy it. God himself could destroy the Dome of the Rock with lightning, earthquake, fire, water, you name it. The temple has been destroyed before. The Dome of the Rock has been destroyed before in 1015 AD. The Al-Aqsa Mosque was destroyed in the 1920s, all due to earthquakes. So it's an earthquake-prone area. That's right up God's handiwork right there. And once this Dome of the Rock is removed from the site, the Jews, I think, are ready to build the third temple on its proper place. And that would begin, once they sanctify that temple, they would start their daily sacrifices. Now, a destroyed Dome of the Rock is more than adequate a reason to start the Magog invasion. This is detailed among other places, but in Ezekiel chapters 38 and 39. And in this war, Ezekiel forecasts that all Muslim countries, except for Egypt, are going to send troops to Israel. So this includes Turkey with a 1 million-man army, Iran, Syria, Iraq, Sudan, Libya. Even the stands will send troops to Israel. And Israel's defenses are going to be overwhelmed by the sheer number of bodies. So this is going to be a set of bodies, not a technical war. This is going to be boots on the ground. And the U.S., the United States, is not going to support Israel in this because they built a temple where the Dome of the Rock was. You can see, I think, Iran nuclear missiles being fired at Israel. But they are going to fizzle. God's going to make sure they don't explode, but they're going to litter the land with their radioactive materials. So this is going to contaminate the land, but this is detailed out in Ezekiel how the land is going to be cleaned after this. And so this leaves the impression that only God came through and saved the Jews in this invasion. We think that with all of these different countries sending troops into Israel, I think that you will see them fighting amongst themselves more than they fight against the Jews, because each of them are going to want a chunk of the property, and this will provide a reason for them to be shooting at each other rather than at the Jews. So in Ezekiel, it shows that Israel is going to pick up all this nuclear material, and that's going to be used to run their nuclear power plants for 7 years. And there is a whole decontamination of the land that is spelled out in Ezekiel. So this is Ezekiel was 1,000 years before Christ, and so here we are talking about nuclear fallout in the Bible. So in the aftermath of this invasion, where the Muslim world was just outraged at Israel for building a temple in the right spot, the Jews are going to realize that only God saved them. So it will bring many Jews who are not believers in God are closer to God and to start believing that God exists. And I believe that the third temple will continue to operate in that time, and it might be a generation of peace and prosperity for the Jews. This Magog invasion is going to take a lot out of the Muslim world, and they will not be able to remount an offense against Israel for a long time. So it's at least 7 years after the war, so that they can, burn up all of that nuclear material that we're talking about. So this can be years and years ahead in time right now. But then eventually the rapture will come, and that begins the start of the tribulation. So let's talk about the tribulation itself. What we know about the tribulation is that John is our eyewitness and participant, and he uses many parts of the Bible in the Old Testament and in the New Testament as waypoints for what he is seeing. So when he sees things, he is writing them down as diligently as he can, and it all kind of points back to what the prophets were seeing also in Israel, thousands of years ago. John is a participant, so we'll see what happens. He is actually participating in the tribulation in certain points. But he is being transported to both places on earth and in heaven. And we can kind of see where he is based on the verbiage that he presents in the text. But he is shown times that are prior to his life, which was around AD 90, and well after it. I mean, he goes out to the end of the world, thousands of years after this, to show what God has in store for humanity. Okay, so John is being taken to these places. He's not in control of that. And he is writing things down as fast as he can. In Revelation 10:8, John is asked to perform certain tasks in the tribulation. He eats a little book. What does the book say? We don't know. We have to theorize on that. He measures the temple with a rod, and he's told that he must continue prophesying. So John is an active participant in the tribulation. And in Revelation 10:4, we see that John actually brings his writing instruments and papers with him when he is transported to these new events. So this is all key information. He is writing things down and trying to be a good witness for us. Now, John is being bounced all over the place to view the events. And so whenever John uses the sentence structure, beginning a sentence with, "and then I saw," or sometimes he says, "and then I heard," he does this more than 70 times in the text. John, what he does here is he realizes that he's been transported to a new event, anywhere and anywhen in the space timeline. So sometimes he doesn't know where he's at. But he is going to say, this is a new place that I see, so I'm going to use this "and then I saw" or "and then I heard." So more than 70 times he announces that he is the one that saw this and he is witnessing to that. So John is also in awe from the spectacle of what he sees. And John, he gets confused at some points and tries to worship supernatural beings, and they insist that he worship the true God. So right at the start, John falls at the feet of Jesus, and Jesus picks him up and tells him, "Hey, you got to get writing here. Start writing this all down." And by the time of the end of the tribulation, in Revelation 19 and in Revelation 22, John tries to worship angels, and those angels pick him up and say, "Don't worship me, worship the true God." So John is overwhelmed in certain senses, and he does as best as he can to describe what he saw and what he heard. Now, Revelation, the whole book, is full of sevens. There's 7 seals, 7 trumpets, 7 bowls, there's 7 lampstands, there's 7 of everything in this book. And 7 is a good number for God. He likes it. And these 7 seals, trumpets, and bowls are the only things in sequential order in the Revelation text. So they are dealt seal 1, seal 2, seal 3, trumpet 1, trumpet 2, trumpet 3, bowl 1, bowl 2, bowl 3. Those 21 events add up to be the tribulation. And I am calling the 11th event, which is in the middle of the tribulation, the middle of the tribulation. Okay, that's going to be that 11th event is the 4th trumpet. So we'll keep that in mind, and we'll get up to it and talk about it. We are only going to add 2 events to the timeline, and that we're going to call them the 2 witnesses and the 144,000 Jewish servants. These are 2 events that are detailed in Revelation that are not part of the seals, trumpets, and bowls, but they help with the storyline. So we're going to include those. The 2 witnesses are detailed out in Revelation 11:3. They may be Moses and Elijah. We don't know who the witnesses are. People think that they might be Moses and Elijah because of the powers that they have, that they are given to protect themselves and to continue operating on the Temple Mount. They're going to arrive in Jerusalem on the opening of the first seal. So this will be, they will come out of nowhere, and they're going to operate from the Temple Mount for 42 months. And that is the first half of the tribulation. The 84 months divided by 2, 42 months. They're going to be there, and at that middle point in the tribulation, they are killed by the Antichrist. And I am saying that at this 42 months, it is the 4th trumpet. It is the middle event in our 21 events that we're talking about. And John is so busy that he describes these two witnesses in the text after the fourth trumpet has already been blown, and its effects are known. The second cause that I want to talk about is the 144,000 Jewish servants. These are called out in Revelation 7, verses 3 to 8. I believe they're going to be active in the first half of the tribulation. These 144,000 people are going to be organized by the Holy Spirit. So the Holy Spirit will be coming to each of them, and they will operate individually, at least at first. Because I think that these Jewish servants are going to be boys at their bar mitzvah age, are going to be the most likely people that the Lord will use. And the goal that he's going to give for those 144,000 is to warn in all the synagogues of the world to emphatically insist that Jews return to Israel. Jews are all over the world right now, and they have synagogues. In their synagogues, the boys go through bar mitzvah, the girls go through bat mitzvah. That's fine. But in this case, at this time, right after the first seal has been opened, boys are going to be warning in their synagogues for all Jews to come back to Israel. And you will see this not in the news, but inside of the Jewish community. One rabbi is going to call another rabbi, and they're all going to have the same issue going on in their synagogue. So if each servant just convinces 100 Jews to return to Israel, that covers our 15 million Jews. And as we will see, after the first seal is broken, the new world leader, the Antichrist, is going to have a time of peace. And that's going to be the only time when global travel will allow Jews to get back to Israel in any kind of reasonable time. So all of this is going to work together so that Israel is filled up with Jews. There's a little bit more about the 144,000. That number is used in two other texts. In Revelation 14, they are on Mount Zion, which is on earth, and they are with Christ when he arrives at the end of the tribulation. So that's in Rev 14:1. In 14:3, the 144,000 are now up in heaven and singing a song that only they can sing to the Most High God. So these 144,000 Jewish servants are going to be bound to Jesus at some point, and they will travel with him. But they will all be accounted for in some way and have a purpose in heaven with Jesus. So these 7 seals are on a document as detailed in the text. And that document can only be opened by one person on the earth, and that was the Son of Man, which is Jesus Christ. And he is the only person who is worthy to open up this document by breaking the 7 seals. So in John's time in Rome, a 7-seal document was always the deed to a property. So this deeded property can only be the title deed to the earth. And the Most High God has signed it and sealed it and handed it over to Jesus. And now it's just his turn to break the seals so that he can become the owner of the earth. And now Jesus has control of the timing for the breaking of each seal. So I expect that after the first seal is broken, you're going to see a year, maybe 18 months of peace on earth, which is what the Antichrist brings, is peace on the earth. There will be no wars. But after that, you're going to see a quick succession of war, famine, and pestilence. And we'll see that next. So these first 4 seals, even though they're opened and they're timed by Jesus, they are actually administered by Satan, because these are all centered on man. Okay, the first seal, it's called the white horse, and this signifies the Antichrist coming into the world stage. This is a man chosen by Satan. This is Revelation 6:1. The second seal, which is, like I said, it's the war, is the red horse. And this is man's inhumanity to man. This is going to be a war targeted by Satan. And it's 2 verses later, Revelation 6:3. The third seal is the black horse, and that represents famine in the lands. And this is the breakdown of man's food production and distribution system. This is arranged by Satan. Revelation 6:5. You see how close they are. And then finally, the fourth seal is the green horse, which signifies pestilence, meaning sickness. This is the breakdown of man's public health care system, and this is planned by Satan. Revelation 6:7. So you can see that these are all centered on man, and these are things that have, except for the Antichrist, war, famine, and pestilence have plagued humanity for its entire existence. And so these are the setup ways that men kill each other. And so these are our first 4 seals. And let's talk about the results of these. So the results of the first 4 seals are that 1/4 of the Earth's population is killed. So in reality, Satan is allowed to select 1/4 of the world to kill, 1/4 of the people on the earth to kill. And this is as long a leash as Satan gets. So Satan is allowed this by God. He gets his Antichrist, and he gets a war, famine, and pestilence. And John sees these seals opened in heaven, and then he sees them implemented on earth. So let's take a look at some of the numbers here. How many people are on the earth today? Well, in round numbers, it's 8 billion people. 1/4 of them is 2 billion people. So 2 billion people are going to be killed by war, famine, and pestilence. Now, it doesn't say in the text that this is going to be divided equally, and who but God would be able to count them up, right? But if you divide them to see what kind of scale we're talking about, 666,666,666 people each are going to die from the war, from starvation, and from disease. So this is an astronomical number. If you look at wars in the past, the World War II had at most 100 million people dying in that war, and that was over 7 years. And this war is going to last maybe 15 minutes, as we see. But what we'll do now is let's just take a look at the populations on the earth. How many people are Christian? And you can see that Christians have about 2.4 billion people. So even if Satan wanted to kill just Christians, he would still have 400 million Christians left over who he's not able to kill in this round. Muslims, there's almost 2 billion Muslims. Unaffiliated, 1.2. Hindus, Buddhists, folk religions, they're all down there. And Jews are at 15 million. So 15 million in a population of 8 billion. Let's see where Christians are located generally on this map. Darker colors are higher concentrations of Christian population. So you can see that Christians are kind of concentrated in North America, South America, Europe and Russia, and Sub-Saharan Africa. So those are the four areas where we can see Satan targeting this war and all the after effects of it. If you resize this by population, this is how God looks at the world in terms of the souls that are on it. Each pixel here is 1 million people. So you can see the United States is a little small compared to Europe. And then Canada, of course, is pushed way down against it because it's there's not very many people living in Canada. You see in South America that Brazil has most of the people. In Europe, Russia is pushed all the way over because it only has 120 million people in it. But that adds that many folks to Europe. And in Africa, Nigeria is probably the biggest country there, very much a Christian nation. And in the east, you see the very large populations in India and China. Now, there's a lot of evangelicism going on in India and China, and these people are, these Christians that are in those countries are kind of living under the radar screen, if you will. They're not really counted well in India and China, but they are there. So they will be part of the forefront. Also, you can see in the bottom right, Australia is a little yellow dot, and the islands of Indonesia are very large compared to even Australia. Those are very large populations of people on Indonesia. So if we kind of add up the continental populations, North America, South America, Europe, with Russia and Sub-Saharan Africa, it totals also to be about 2.3 billion people. So that means that any kind of war, famine, and pestilence in these areas, Satan only gets 2 billion to kill. That means that 300 million people are going to be a remnant in these areas. So there will be people living in these areas after these 4 seals. Just to be certain, let's look where the Muslims are located. And most Muslim countries tend to go to 100% population because they don't like having other religions near them. You can see that it's all in North Africa and East Africa, the Middle East, and into the stands of Russia. And you see Indonesia in the bottom right, which was a very large country in terms of people, is all Muslim. So those people are all accounted for here. And you can see that there's very little populations. Well, there are some populations in India and very little bit in China. So I've been kind of not prophesying here, but I've been trying to let you know that the United States is going to get kind of walloped in the first 4 seals, and God always gives warning to people. And here we have 2 solar eclipses that recently happened in 2017 and in 2024. They make a big X on the United States, and it's centered right on the New Madrid earthquake in southern Illinois, or the earthquake zone in southern Illinois. So as we go on in our lives, we might see something happen in that area, and that will also cause people to come to God. Let's try and put on Satan's hat for a little bit and just figure out what he wants to do. Nobody knows, of course, but from what we know of him, Satan really wants to kill Christians and Jews from off the earth. He wants to create his own global currency system to enforce that worship. This is commonly called the mark of the beast, and he wants to be worshipped as God. So in order to do that, he needs to move Christians and Jews, remove them from the earth as best he can, and then bring in his own system. This is also forward thinking to what Satan is likely to do, given that he has this long leash from God at the end of the world. And what I would counsel is that there's going to be a nuclear war between the United States, between Russia, and Europe. And in a certain sense, it doesn't matter who fires the first missiles. I think the missiles are going to fly, and that's going to wipe out all of the developed world. Okay? And at a certain extent, if your city is bombed, you don't really care who fired the missile at you. It might be all USA missiles. We don't know. Also, you can see famine taking out sub-Saharan Africa and disease in South America. But really, all three of these are going to work in concert with each other to maximize the destruction of human life. Satan has 2 billion people to kill, and he's going to be a little sloppy in it to get to that state. He's not going to care too much about how many people that he kills in the United States or in Europe who believe in him. He doesn't care about that because he is looking for world domination. And all of these three methods are the ways that humanity has been killing itself for thousands of years. So although it's a very large number of people who are dying here, they're dying in ways that they've been killing themselves for millennium. So this is not part of the Great Tribulation. This is the start of the tribulation, and this happens inside the first 4 seals. So if Satan wants to bring in his own currency, the mark of the beast, he has to destroy the global currencies that are currently in the world. And that includes, and just by bombing 3 cities, he can take out those currencies. And those cities would be the New York for the dollar, London for the pound, and Frankfurt for the euro. Now you could throw in Brussels, you could throw in Paris as well to take out the euro. But those 3 cities, if you take them out, the global currency system is going to kind of collapse. Now in the United States, there's 12 Fed cities, Federal Reserve cities, where a Federal Reserve Bank is up and operating. Besides in New York, you got Boston, Richmond, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Atlanta, Chicago, Minneapolis, St. Louis, Kansas City, Dallas, San Francisco, and our baker's dozen is, of course, Washington, D.C. Washington is where the politicians are at. You can imagine that it would probably be very well bombed out. By taking out these cities, the Satan can bring in the mark of the beast with no opposition. So let's talk about nuclear bombs for a little bit. A nuclear bomb can ruin your day. Here's a 2 megaton bomb. This is like a standard bomb from Russia. But if it falls on Chicago and hits in the downtown area, that will destroy the Fed because everything in that little circle, everything in the loop would be vaporized, meaning non-existent. And that first circle, that gray circle, is the region where every building will be blown over. And then in the yellow circle, that is where every building will be burnt, if you will. It'll be on fire, and people will have massive 3rd-degree burns, skin melting off, that kind of stuff. In the outside circle, that's where windows are blown out of all the buildings because of the pressure difference. Okay, And you can see that half of this bomb is kind of wasted over Lake Michigan. So all that is going to do out there is boil a little water off, and Lake Michigan will be fine. But in order to get downtown, you got to shoot a bomb, right into the right up to the edge of the water. So obviously, there's going to be people who are taking out immediately. This is a famous picture of the bank in Hiroshima after the nuclear blast there. What you see here is a gentleman with a cane who was walking up to the bank at the time that the bomb exploded, and his body stopped the electromagnetic radiation in his area there, where it normally just blew off the top surface of the steps. It left his shadow on the steps as a reminder that he was there, but he was gone in an instant. That will happen to people in that first couple of zones, but further out, you're going to get more and more people who have disastrous deaths because of the mass number of people, loss of electricity, everything else. So nuclear war has a tendency to be over pretty quick, and we all hope that that happens. So now we're going to talk about the fifth seal. This is a seal that happens up in heaven. John sees this happening up in heaven. It's Revelation 6:9. And this seal is opened, and the martyrs who have just died are comforted. They're given clothes to wear and told to be patient. God is getting there, and they are warned that more people are going to die. So just be patient, and God is moving along now. So John sees this in heaven, and like I said, Satan does not get to administer any more events in the tribulation. That's it. He's just now a participant like everyone else. So Satan has had his chance. Now he is ruling on earth, but the earth, in terms of the developed world, is pretty well knocked out, but he is in charge of what's left. And John does see in Revelation 7:9, he sees another cohort of souls in heaven that he says that no man could count. So I'm just going to estimate how many people that is that John sees in this cohort. So if you figure out that if you count one head per second for 18 hours a day, over 80 years of your life, that works out to be about 1.9 billion people. That's the number of seconds you get, basically, that you're alive and awake. These people are shown to be coming out of the Great Tribulation. So that's what it's called. And so in this cohort, those are going to be coming out of trumpet number 6 as we get to that. So now Christ moves on to the sixth seal. And in this seal, there's a great earthquake on earth. This is Revelation 6:12. And it's going to be a big earthquake. God is moving the earth, actually, and I believe the entire solar system into a four-dimensional space from our three-dimensional universe. So here in Revelation, as well as in Isaiah, Isaiah saw this also. John sees the stars in the sky flatten to a plane and then roll up like a scroll. So the only way that this happens is if you are in a three-dimensional world and then you're pulled above it into the fourth dimension. You'll see all the stars flatten into a plane. Then as you move through that space, they're going to roll up like a scroll. So some of the men on earth are going to realize that God has moved the earth. You're going to see spheres flattening out. So if you look at the moon, you'll be able to see its entire surface from where you're at. because it's going to flatten out like a pancake. And if you are a flat earther, this is going to be your time to live, because the whole earth is going to appear as if it's flat, and you'll be able to see out to the edge of the earth. However, as you walk around the earth, the edge is going to keep on moving away from you, so you will always be in the center of the earth when you're in the fourth dimension. So I believe that God is moving the earth to the bottomless pit, where he has a lot of demons and things stored up to come out onto the earth in later events. And so God is bringing the earth there so nobody gets lost. It's nice and close, and we can shoo them all back in there when they're done. John is on the earth to see this, and so this is also where you're going to see the lie from Satan that the earth was moved by the flying saucers. Okay, so this is happening on a planetary basis. He needs a planetary lie in order to keep people from believing in God. So you're going to hear that lie a lot. And finally, Jesus opens the seventh seal on this document. And there's silence in heaven for half an hour. That's Revelation 8:1. And I see this as God asking for any last prayers from his people. And an angel fills a censer with coals from the altar of God, and he burns incense in them for God to smell all the prayers of the people of the earth, and then he refills the censer with fresh coals, and then he throws it down to the earth. Now, if he throws it down to the earth, he's throwing it somewhere, and where's it going to land? Well, of course, it's going to land in Jerusalem, and it's going to land on the Temple Mount, and the two witnesses are going to be the ones to catch it. And, of course, the Antichrist is going to want the censer as a relic for himself, and so there's going to be a fight for the censer, although I don't think that the Antichrist is going to be there for that. He's going to send people to try and get the censer, and, of course, they're going to fail. The two witnesses can add incense to the censer while they hold it, and those prayers are going to rise up to God. And also, by opening the seventh seal, Jesus now officially owns the earth. So this is a big change, and Jesus is now in charge. So the next series of events are trumpets. They're trumpet blasts blown by the angels. They're told to blow the trumpet, and they blow it. So these are also timed by Jesus, and they start blowing in Revelation 8:7. So for the first trumpet, hail, fire, and blood are cast onto the earth. So you're going to see hailstones coming down, and fire. By fire, that might be sulfur. It might be any kind of flammable fluid. Who knows? And blood is just to make things messy, are cast onto the earth. So this is also thrown down by the angels. Okay, hail, fire, and blood. And this is going to start environmental atmospheric destruction. This is not climate change, as you've been told. This is God kind of putting a whole bunch of fires in place that burn 1/3 of all the global trees and all grasslands. So all of Russia's steppes and grasslands are burned. All the Midwest grasses up into Canada, 1/3 of all the trees, 1/3 of all the trees in Brazil, and all over the world. All the grasslands in Africa and Asia are going to get burnt up by this. So this is going to put a tremendous amount of smoke in the air, and this is going to degrade the air quality for all people on the earth. Everybody's going to be coughing here, and the sun is going to be red because of all of the smoke. Then the second trumpet is blown, and a mountain or an asteroid is cast into the ocean. This is Revelation 8:8. And this mountain that falls into the ocean kills 1/3 of all the life in the ocean. And so you can imagine that a tsunami is going to happen on the bordering lands. And of course, our NASA people have been warning about this. But of course, there's going to be a lie told that this is something to do with space aliens and flying saucers and things. John is on the earth to see this. Obviously, this affects all the people on the earth. A large amount of seawater is going to get pushed into the upper atmosphere. And this thing could land in the Atlantic or the Pacific, wherever God so chooses. That's where it's going to land. And there'll be a large fallout of water wherever the down rotation is for this. Although I think a whole bunch of this water is going to be up in the lower atmosphere. I'm sorry, the upper atmosphere, the lower outer space. So at this point, if there are any satellites in orbit, I think they're all going to be wiped out by just the volume of the water. And the third trumpet is also blown. And here a star called wormwood falls on the fresh water sources in Revelation 8:8. And this makes 1/3 of the fresh water bitter or poisonous, so people can't use it. That means the Great Lakes are poisoned. Any of the freshwater lakes that you see out there, even some of the bigger rivers, are going to be poisoned in this way. And so this is going to affect the water quality for people who need to drink fresh water. They can't drink seawater, of course, but this water is poisoned enough to kill them. And now we come to the fourth trumpet. And in this trumpet, God blocks the sun and the stars for 8 hours a day. This is Revelation 8:12. But if you remember back at the start, I've labeled this the middle of the tribulation. It's exactly halfway through the tribulation. And so this is our 42-month check-in for the tribulation. At this time, the Antichrist is going to come to Jerusalem, and he's going to kill the two witnesses. This is detailed out in the text. And they are going to lie on the Temple Mount for 3 days while people laugh and are joyed by the fact that the Antichrist was able to kill them. The Antichrist, of course, is going to enter the third temple. He's going to take the censer with him, and he's going to cause the abomination of desolation as told by Jesus and very many different prophets. And the only thing that God is showing here that he's displeased with the abomination of desolation is he's going to block the sun and the stars for 8 hours. John sees this happening on earth. So the fourth trumpet here, this is the beginning of the Great Tribulation now. God is going to turn off the sun for 4 hours over Jerusalem, and he's going to turn off the stars for another 4 hours. So this is going to be seen globally, and the only question really is how long is God going to continue to do this, to turn on and off the sun and the stars? Is he going to do it for 1 day? Is he going to do it for the 3 days that the witnesses are lying there? Or is he going to do it until the fourth bowl? And the reason I ask that is the fourth bowl, he might want to have a fully working sun at that time. So there's a little bit of ambiguity there, but it will be terrifying one way or the other for the sun to turn off. And of course, in this trumpet, Satan will be blaming outside forces for the blocking of the sun. So now we are in the fifth trumpet, and this before this trumpet is blasted, it is told by an angel that this is the first of 3 woes in Revelation 8:13. He says there's going to be 3 woes for these next 3 trumpets, so be careful. And during this trumpet, the bottomless pit is opened by Abaddon. This is Revelations 9:1. And out of the bottomless pit come demon, scorpion, locusts. And they are released all over the entire earth. And they roam around for 5 months, which is a normal time for a locust, I guess. But these are demon-powered, and they have scorpion tails. So it is shown that unbelievers in God are stung by the scorpions. So that means that people who believe in God are not stung by the scorpions. So who's getting stung every day? Well, hopefully the Antichrist and all of the people that believe in him. And they're certainly going to notice who's not getting stung, and that would be Christians in the remnant, as well as Jews will not be getting stung if they believe in God. So this is the first woe, and it goes on for 5 months. So if you didn't know whether you believed in God or not, if you're getting stung, you're not believing in God. So God makes it pretty clear how it's going to be. So let's move on to the 6th trumpet. This is the second woe. It comes right after the first woe from Revelation 9:12. And in this trumpet, 4 angels are released out of the river Euphrates to direct 200 million fire-breathing demons that come out of the bottomless pit. So these 200 million demons have 13 months, which is a year and a month and a day and an hour, as shown in the text. And they will kill 1/3 of all people on the earth. Okay, so that's another huge number. This is our second cohort. So these angels are under the control of God, and the angels control 200 million demons. So let's run the numbers again. 1/3 of 8 billion people is 2,666,666,666 people are to be killed by the demons in the 13 months. Now, if you divide that many people by the 200 million demons, it shows that each demon gets to kill 13 1/3 persons. So each demon has a full month to follow his victim around, making their life miserable until a burning day comes up. So this, I believe, is all coordinated, and it's being run by the 4 angels out of the Euphrates, and they're obviously getting their walking papers from God. So who is God going to target here? Who does God want to bring into the fold? And I believe that God is going to send these fire-breathing demons after those non-believers who are the most likely to change their minds to believe in God only if a demon is stalking them for an entire month. So God, I think, is going to send these demons after people who are most likely to change their minds and come to belief in God. So God is really scraping the bottom of the barrel here of humanity, and this is going to eliminate the entire squishy bottom of Satan's army on the earth. So you can see how this is going to work out. That first month, 200 million people who are selected, most of them are going to turn to God because they're the easiest ones to switch. Now, I think that God is still going to have the demons kill them, even if they proclaim, oh, now I'm a Christian. They're going to have to believe that all the way through their fiery death in order to get to heaven. But as the months go further, more and more people are going to say, no, I still believe in this Antichrist, and because I want to do that. And so by the end of the 13th month, you're going to see an entire 200 million people decide, I'm believing still in the Antichrist. Okay, and none of them will go to heaven as a Christian. So God is going to take out the entire squishy bottom of Satan's army on the earth. After this trumpet, everybody who's not a Christian, not a Jew, is going to be firmly in Satan's camp. Okay, they're going to be right there. And God has used all of his wits to get as many people converted to Christianity as he could. So let's look at the timing of this. And 13 months in this woe can conveniently cover the same Jewish holiday twice. So not to put God in a vice or anything like that, but these burnings could cover 2 Passovers. Or if this is a leap month year in the Jewish calendar, it would only be able to cover 1 Passover. So rhetorically, how many Jews are going to participate in the Seder dinner? The answer is all of them. And I think it's a high likelihood that these burning days are going to line up with the Jewish calendar feasts, just to get everybody mad at the Jews, basically, because they won't hopefully be the ones being targeted for this destruction. So let's take a look at the Jewish calendar just real quick. Nisan is the first month of the year. That's when Passover happens. It's between March and April. And then there's 12 months around to Adar. And every 7 out of 19 years, Adar has a second month added to it. So it's Adar 2. And so that could also contain 13 months. And only have 1 Passover for the for any of these to take place. And so that's our Jewish calendar. But we'll move on from here. So now we're into the 7th trumpet. So after another 2.6 billion people have been killed, we're actually, the population of the earth is actually where a whole lot of the Earth's elites right now would like to see our Earth population. They've said publicly that they'd like to see half the number of people on the Earth so that, we don't ruin it environmentally. But now you got to take a look and see how the Earth looks when this many people are killed. To realize that that's just a terrible, terrible wish. But let's move on to the 7th trumpet. This is the last trumpet, and it's the last woe, and the third woe. And as the third woe, this trumpet really appears to be a big nothing burger. It's blown on Revelation 11:15. And what it is told is that the kingdom of the Lord is at hand. The nations are angry. The judgment of the dead, non-believers, and reward the servants of the Lord. The temple of God is opened in heaven. So all of these statements, while being very nice, are not a woe to the inhabitants of the earth. So what is going on here? Why is this 7th trumpet a woe to the people when they've just been, bitten by scorpions for 5 months, and then they watch all the people that they know and love get, burnt up by demons? A terrible time, but not this. So, but when you ask people, what's the third woe, they kind of give you a blank stare. What do you mean, the third woe? So I did have an opportunity to ask a very intelligent person, the writer of this book, Peter Williams. He wrote this book, Can We Trust the Gospels? And of course, the answer is yes. But I asked him, I said, what's the third woe? And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, it's this big nothing burger. And so I'd like to swap the seventh trumpet with the seventh bowl. So at least something happens on the earth that can be considered a woe. And he says, oh, I know your problem. And what's that? He says, there's no swaps in the Bible. Treat every line of scripture individually. And so that set me back a little bit, and I started reading again in Exodus and Job and all kinds of other places for what could possibly be the third woe. And all you have to do is actually read further from the seventh trumpet. If you read 12 more verses, you see in Revelation 12:7, and there was war in heaven, and Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and kicked Satan out of heaven and to the earth. Okay, and then you read 5 more verses, Revelation 12:12. But woe to the inhabitants of the earth, for the devil is come down to you very angry, because he knows he has little time left. Now John hears all this, of course, in heaven, and he writes it all down. But now that is a woe, having Satan only confined to the earth, and he's very angry. And so what can Satan do at this point? Can he kill people? Can he kill people directly? Can he cause them mental hardships? We just don't know what he's going to do, but it's going to be equal to or greater than killing 2.6 billion people by burning them to death. So this is going to be a woe, but there's no further text that is going to describe this. So how much time is left in the tribulation based on this? And at the fourth trumpet, of course, that's 42 months. The fifth trumpet added 5 months. The sixth trumpet added 13 months and a little bit. So that totals 60 months, which is 5 years completed. That means we have 2 years yet to go in the tribulation. And Satan is going to be on the earth for most of that time. So things are really going to get worse on the earth. But now we're going to move on to the set of bowls. And these bowls are all poured out by the angels. They're given to them to pour out onto the earth. And the first bowl forms grievous sores on non-believers. So this is in Revelation 16:2. I view this as the sores of Job. So if you want to go to the book of Job, the first couple of chapters, it tells you how sick he was made by the devil. But the sores, I think, are going to be on that order of magnitude. And who's going to be covered in sores are going to be all the non-believers, meaning people who believe in the Antichrist. And who's going to notice who doesn't have any sores? You betcha they're going to see who doesn't have any sores. That'll be Christians, the remnant, and any Jews that are on the earth. And I think that these sores are going to persist on these non-believers until the end of the tribulation. So John is in heaven to hear this bowl. So this is gonna be an ongoing thing for people now. We'll go to the second bowl, and in this bowl, God once again goes to the oceans, and they are all turned into dead man's blood, a dark, dried, crusted, stinking mess. This is Revelation 16:3. All life in the oceans die, and that means that there's no more rain on the earth. It's going to get very dry because the hydrological cycle is going to be stopped right in the beginning. If all the oceans are turned into a dried, crusted, stinking mess. So John is in heaven to hear the bowl. And we're going to go on to the third bowl. And in here, all the fresh water, rivers and lakes are turned to blood. This is Revelation 16:4. So everybody on the earth, if they want to drink water, they got to drink a bloody water, which I believe is going to be worse than blood. It's going to be a stinking kind of a thing. And this is going to affect everybody on the earth. And John is, of course, in heaven to hear this bowl. And now we come to the fourth bowl. And this here is when the sun concentrates to scorch non-believers again. This is Revelation 16:8. So these non-believers are just getting clobbered. You can imagine angels flying around with giant magnifying glasses, just burning people at random or kind of en masse. But everybody who is getting burned is going to notice who's not getting burned, because non-believers are not going to get burned by the sun. And like I said before, earlier, this could be when the cycling of the sun, turning it on and off from trumpet 4 is stopped. Okay, because God is going to want the sun at kind of full power here. And if you didn't like getting burnt, in the fifth bowl here, the throne of the beast is thrown into darkness. This is Revelation 16:10. And they gnaw their tongues for pain. I believe that God is going to cut out photons from the area. And that just means this is going to create a condition just like as before in Genesis, going back to Genesis 1:3. Before light was even invented, you're going to see that there's no electromagnetic radiation at any frequency coming through. So there's no photons, which is going to cause this great amount of pain because nobody will be able to get rid of their excess heat. And the question is going to be, where is the throne of the beast this late in the tribulation? And it could be any number of places, but it could be in Rome, could be in Beijing, or it could be in Delhi, where the large populations are. And people who are living in those geographical regions around the throne of the beast, wherever he puts his throne, they're all going to be put under intense pain. So they go right from being scorched by the sun right into the darkness, and it's just as bad. Okay. And now in the sixth bowl, we're kind of getting close to the end here. The sixth bowl, the Euphrates River is dried up. This is Revelation 16:12. This is to allow the armies of the east, which would be the only armies left would be China and India, to send armies to Israel to wipe out the Jews. And this is a point where John is taken to a new place, and he says, and then John saw. He sees the devil, the Antichrist, and the false prophet each have their spirits like frogs exorcised out of their mouths. So I'm saying that when John says, and then I saw this, because it folds into the rest of the bowl text, I'm saying that this is happening in bowl 6. Okay, this is the only time I'm doing this, but I think it's important that at the end here, the devil, the Antichrist, and the false prophet each have their spirits exorcised. Okay, so we'll know from the Antichrist, who's human, and the false prophet, who's human, if they get their spirits exorcised, they're going to go back to being their former selves. And I think that at this time, all humans on the earth are going to have their demons exorcised as well. So all dominions, powers, and rulers are removed from people so that they are now free from that demonic persuasion, and they can come to terms with God if they can so do that. But what does it mean that the devil has his spirit removed? I mean, this is the most powerful angel who was in the universe, and now his spirit is also going to be removed. This is a question that you got to ask yourself. But I don't think anybody has really talked about this. So let's look at the devil's fate. This is what we see later in Revelation 20 is that a normal angel, this is not Michael or Gabriel or a whole army of angels, just one angel is sent to arrest Satan, okay, and to put him in iron chains and deposit him in the bottomless pit. That happens with one normal angel, whereas before it took all of Michael's armies just to evict him from heaven. So, and then using iron chains, and in the Bible, a man at Gerasenes was indwelt with demons. Now, he had a lot of demons in him, but he had the power to break iron chains. This is in Mark 20, chapter 20, verse 1. So I believe that the divine council is also going to suffer the same fate as Satan, as described in Psalm 82. You're going to have to go to Psalm 82 to read it. But there is a council that God has had of supernatural beings that have run the countries. There's 70 of them that have run the countries badly, except for Israel, which is God's country to run. So all of that divine council, I think, is going to suffer the same fate as Satan and get thrown into the bottomless pit. But they're not shown here. John only sees this happening to Satan, and then the Antichrist and the false prophet. So the armies of the East, from China and India, are going to arrive at somewhere in Israel, maybe at the plains of Megiddo, to fight against Israel. This is Revelation 16:16. They're going to arrive on their own will. They're not going to be under demonic control. They're going to be just mad at Israel. And that's when Christ arrives on the Mount of Olives, and the troops of the Antichrist are going to be wiped out. John witnesses this from the earth. He sees it all happening right in front of him. And this is the long-awaited Christ's return, is right here to wipe out this army. Okay, so now we're at the seventh bowl. This is the last bowl in the series. It's done. This is Revelation 16:17. There are 7 years of tribulation are now completed from the first seal all the way now to the seventh bowl. It's 2,520 days are completed, and what we see is the largest earthquake the world has ever felt is going to happen. The continents, I believe, are going to fuse back together, so the Earth rotation is going to slow. It might slow down by like 20 minutes. And if that happens, then we'll be back to 360 days in a year to go around the sun. So God is returning the earth back to the physical conditions when Eden was. And these physical conditions are going to be returned to the earth. And at the end here, hailstones the weight of a talent fall on men. So we are going to take a look at that real quick. John witnesses this all from heaven. I think this will be a wonderful time, but continents moving back together are going to be a sight to see. So let's just look at the hailstones. And in John's day, a Roman talent weighed just 2 ounces short of 130 pounds. So that converts to 58.9 kilograms. A kilogram of water is 1 liter of water by definition. So that's how many liters it is in volume. The Second Temple Jewish talent had a different weight. It weighed 71 pounds and 3 ounces, which corresponds to 32.3 kilograms of water, or 32.3 liters of water. Now, ice, when it freezes, has 10% more volume than the same mass of liquid water. So you use our equation, volume equals 4/3 pi r cubed, and you can solve for diameter with that. And I turned it into inches, that a Roman talent hailstone is 19.6 inches in diameter, falling from the sky. And if you want to use a second temple talent, that hailstone is 16.1 inches in diameter. So these are huge hailstones falling. The question is where is God getting the water from? And this water might be coming from outer space, from that first comet hit in the ocean. They might be coming down now as water, as ice, from a low orbit, or going around the Earth these past few years. And also, God can get the water from wherever He wants to create these hailstones. But what this means is that everybody who's left alive on the Earth is going to start off with a leaky roof. Nobody's going to have a roof over their heads. And at this time, there's still a whole bunch of people who are believing in Satan still. So that's also something that we'll talk about a little bit. But that ends my discussion here of the 7 seals, trumpets and bowls. We're at the end of the tribulation timeline. I'm going to leave it to you in the audience to fill in the rest of the tribulation events. I mean, there's well over 70 of them witnessed by John. Some of them that are examples here for you. The sharp sickle is going to deal with the 3 billion people left. That's Revelations 14:14. There's 7 mysteries that John is told not to write down. This might include Jesus' new name, but it might also include dispensations for the millennium period. This is in Revelation 10:1. So for all you dispensationalists, tell me what those 7 mysteries are. John eats a little book. That's Revelation 10:8. Why was it sweet as honey in his mouth, but sour in his stomach? There's the woman who rides the beast. This is in Revelation 17:1. Many people have decided that this woman is actually Rome, the Roman Catholic Church, but you can decide who that is. And another event is the first resurrection. That's Revelation 24. And another event is the Great White Throne, Revelation 20:11. And a new heaven and a new earth are created, Revelation 21:1. So all of these events are now available for you to hang on to the framework of the seals, trumpets, and bowls, and let you have a better appreciation for how God has planned the end of the world. So now let's just have a small prayer, and then we'll end this session. Dear God, thank you for allowing us to look at and read the book of Revelation, and to understand it to the best of our abilities, and to know that you love us and you wish us all to be able to come into heaven by believing on the Lord Jesus Christ. And with this, we thank you. Amen.